Now, I think I threw 2 slides yesterday. Some of these will go faster because they're lots of graphs. I put these notes up on the module, so if you're at home and watching, I pull up the notes so you can see the graphs, because I know it's kind of hard to see sometimes on those videos. But the major topic here with federalism is that relationship between the national government and the states. Okay, and just from looking at these 2 graphs, this one starts in 1977. This one starts in 1960. This goes 2006, 2017. A massive change in the amount of involvement at the national level into the states and local governments. Okay, so just one example. I know you didn't get here early enough for free breakfast because you were sleeping in your car. Okay, but if you got here early enough for breakfast and it's free, who's paying for that? Is it the diocese saying, hey, we want to be nice and provide free food to all of our students? Does the diocese have the money to do that? No. Is it the state of Kansas? No, it's the federal government. Okay, and yesterday I put the debt clock up. Okay, and it's up from where it was yesterday to over $27 trillion. We're just printing money, guys. Right now, we're printing money. This year, we will spend $4 trillion more than we take in taxes. We'll run a deficit of about $4 trillion. Okay? I'm going to be dead. Your kids, your children, and your grandchildren are going to be the ones paying for that free breakfast. Because nobody's paying for it right now. We're just printing the money. Okay? And we have to pay interest on all that debt every year, which I will be paying for, and you will be paying for, the interest. But as far as paying down that debt, there's no way in my lifetime we'll be able to do that. Okay, so we just elected possibly I say, Joe Biden, okay? And historically, Democrats like to spend more money than Republicans from the government side of things. Okay, it's just a given. Okay, now the national debt is to blame on both parties. It's not just the Democrats; it's both parties, Republicans and Democrats. Okay, they're looking out 1 to 2 years. They don't look down the road 30 years, because what's in 1 to 2 years is the next election. That's what they're worried about. They're not worried about your grandchildren, okay? And that shows in our policymaking, okay? All right, so the last point I made yesterday, welcome Grant, was that when we start talking about grants, so we started with revenue sharing and then we go to grants, okay? And again, if you did not watch the video yesterday, I highly recommend it, to get a good understanding about what the heck I'm talking about, okay? So we finished up with categorical grants, and I talked about airports. So let's say the federal government sends money to airports. This is very specific. We may not need the money for airports. Our airports might be fine, but they offer $3 million for airports, and we're like, do we want to turn the money down? I mean, that money originated in our state, so we take the money. But the Congress says you have to contribute your own funds, $500,000. The state's funds, which are controlled by the state legislature, who we elect. And now the national government is controlling what we're doing with the money in our state, giving them more power over the states. Follow me on that? So with all this money that they send to state and local government comes requirements, mandates, strings attached. Okay? If you missed the lecture, it's a great analogy when I was talking about crack. So you don't want to miss that. Okay. Okay. So I just mentioned categorical grants. Okay, so now we'll switch to block grants. Okay, Block grants states like a little better because they're broadly defined. So instead of saying airports, they may just say transportation. And then you could use that for all different kinds of things. Rail, you could use it for city buses, you could use it for roads, bridges, okay? That sort of thing, okay? So it's a little bit wider, okay? So it's broader, it's block, okay? States prefer these, right? A couple years ago, well, actually, it was a few years ago when Brownback was governor of Kansas. The way they funded the schools, instead of sending out money for specific things they wanted the school to do, they just set out a big block of money to the schools and says, you manage this money how you best see fit. That's great, because every school is different. Every school has different needs. Okay, so they can choose what to do with that money. All right. Now this is light, but still, it's giving control, with this money to from the national government to the states. Okay, it's got to go in this broadly defined area. So welfare, health, and education could be a lot of different things. Okay. So you got category revenue sharing, categorical grants, and block grants. Okay. Got some graphs here. Okay. We'll start with this one here. Just again, showing the growth of federal aid to the states. This is education here. Okay. You guys ever heard of something called No Child Left Behind? It's an education deal program. Okay. Students that came before you, they dealt with this. You're still feeling the effects of it. Okay. No Child Left Behind was passed in 2000, so 20 years ago. Okay. And basically what it did is it says, well, we need to test the students to make sure that we're not leaving any child behind. Okay, so in 3rd grade, you were tested. In 5th grade, you were tested. 7th grade, you were tested. 11th grade, you're tested. State assessments, right? So that is a down from the kids. Here's some money to do the testing, okay, although it's not enough. So the state's got to come up with their own money. Guys, this testing is very expensive, okay? You know these state assessments you guys take for science and math and so forth. Somebody's got to write those tests. You know who writes them? There's a department over at the University of Kansas that writes them, okay? And they charge the state of Kansas millions of dollars to write these tests. Now, do you think there's teachers in this building that could write those tests? Or do you have to hire somebody from KU to do it? There's a cheaper way to do this. In fact, you have teachers that write tests every couple of weeks and finals at the end of the semester. Why do you need the national government involved in this? Okay, it just creates bureaucracy. It creates red tape. It creates more work for people, and it costs more money. Okay, so if you look at this, the year 2000 education, okay, it takes a big shot straight up, okay, the amount of funding to the states. And then here, more, okay. Then you got, follow transportation here. One thing you'll notice is the 1980s are fairly flat, okay, and that was the Reagan years in here, okay. But since Reagan, you know, you had Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama, okay? And those presidents never saw a spending bill they didn't like. Okay, the president can use the veto pen. When the president thinks Congress is spending too much money or going beyond its powers, the president can veto that. Say, no, this is not what we're doing. Okay? But those presidents rarely vetoed anything. Now, this is an interesting graph. It starts in 1941. Okay. Now, all of you guys next semester are going to be taking history. None of you are taking history right now, are you? Okay. Because some students double up. But anyhow, when you get into history, you're going to start in 1919 with Miss Lovelace or Mr. Skaggs. Okay? Who you got? Do you know who you have next semester? Lovelace? You don't know? Haven't looked that far ahead. So you're going to start in 1919, right after World War I. Okay? In 1929, the stock market crashes. And that basically takes us into the Great Depression. All right? Prior to the Great Depression, guys, federal government, the national government, they built postal roads for post offices. They built post offices. They ran the Army, the Navy, the Marines. We didn't have an Air Force yet. Okay? And that was about it. The national government just didn't do much. When the Depression hit, and we Eleanor Roosevelt, 1932, and what was called the New Deal. Okay, you heard of that? The New Deal? Okay, you guys got to help me out, okay? Because I kind of feel like I'm talking to a wall right now. I got to get, a head shake, a no, I don't know what that means, or yeah, I have heard of that. Something, okay? Okay, so you get the New Deal. And they're going to set up programs like the NRA, the PWA, the WPA, the CCC, okay, the SEC, the FDIC, you heard of that, the TVA, okay, there's just all these new government programs from the federal level. So the size of government is going to go from about this big to about this big in the span of about 3 years. Massive increase in government. And part of that money, okay, is going for welfare. For the first time, we had the federal government sending money to the states to give to people that were hurting, like cash payments. First time, okay, 1934, all right? So you see very little federal government involvement in the states here. Now, this started in 1776, guys. 1776 to 1950 plus years, the federal government did very little. Okay? Now, you see this increasing, you get through World War II, okay? And then in 1964, so the red is health programs and the blue is non-health programs. Anybody know what was passed in 1964? Called Medicare. Okay? Any of you guys have grandparents that are over the age of 65, chances are they're either buy into Medicare or they're on Medicare. So if you're poor, you get Medicare. If you're not poor and you're 65, you buy into Medicare, even though you've been paying taxes for it your whole life. Okay, this is a program that my dad paid into 1964. Okay, I was born in 68. He paid into that all the way up until he was in his 70s. Okay, back around the year 2000. And then he got sick. Okay. And he had too much money. He didn't qualify for Medicare. Now, if you ever had a grandparent that was in like a nursing home or anything like that, okay, guys, it's about $5,000 a month to be in a nursing home. Okay, now you have assisted living that's cheaper than that, depending on where you are. I don't know if you've seen Reflection Ridge Retirement Community over here on Tyler and 21st up there. That place is awesome. Okay, my in-laws lived there for a few years before they passed away. That's like assisted living, or just a retirement home. You know what I mean? You don't have full-time nursing staff and that sort of thing that take care of people. That's a nursing home, okay? $5,000 a month. Okay, so basically, if you're poor, the government picks up that tab with Medicare. If you're not, you got to come up with $5,000 a month. Okay, that kind of pissed me off. To think that my dad paid into this system, ever since its creation, and then didn't qualify for it. Like, what kind of crap is that? You got to learn the tricks of the trade, though. Okay, listen. So my dad's in a nursing home. He's getting full-time care. If you can get him back into the hospital, even if it's just for one day, Medicare picks up the next 100 days of the nursing home. So you go to the doctor and you say, look, doc, something's not right with dad. Can we get him back admitted into the hospital? Okay. We did that twice, so that Medicare would pick up the next 100 days. You got to work the system, man. My dad paid for it. Okay. So, guys, estate planning for your parents, your grandparents is important stuff. Okay. You got to figure that stuff out before it's too late. Okay. So you can see Medicare in the beginning didn't seem like it cost that much. Now look at it. Okay. This, you heard of the baby boom generation? The baby boom generation was born after World War II. So it's 1946 through 1965. I am not a baby boomer. Okay. My wife is. All right. Some of your parents are boomers, some of them are not. Okay. Your parents are all probably roughly the same age as me. I would imagine. Okay. Some of you have older parents, some of you have younger parents. Anybody have parents that were born before 1968? So they might be boomers. All right. They're retiring now. I'm not. Okay. They're starting to retire. So guess what? Okay. Those people that were born in 1946, they've been retired for a long time. Okay. They start going on Medicare. The costs of this start going through the roof. Okay, and then what'd you get in 2009? Obamacare. Woo! I mean, just straight shot north. Okay? And then these are non-health programs. Okay? Now, this is Reagan. Things kind of quit. You know, he's like, we got to stop spending so much money. When he ran for president, he said, government is too big and it spends too much. What he said. He got elected twice. Okay. And so we saw a little dip here. Okay, during the Reagan years. And then you get Clinton. And then this is a Republican president, Bush, right here. Some of that's No Child Left Behind, the education spending. Some of that is war. Actually, this is aid to states. That war would add to the national debt. Okay. So, see, that's going to continue to rise. But most people don't even realize it. You know what I mean? This is that relationship, that federalism. Okay? The relationship has changed. Okay? And again, I draw these boxes just out of, you know, just to show you what it's supposed to look like, right? The boxes are supposed to look like this. National, state, and local. But now, we're starting to see this. National and state. More and more decisions are being made by the national government because of the money. This is the scary one. Okay? Now, this is an average of the 50 states. Okay? Where they get their money and that they spend. Where they get the money they spend. Okay, so this is 2010, 11. Okay, so this is general funds. So for the state of Kansas, the state of Kansas taxes people. Okay, we have a pretty high state income tax here. Okay, we also have property taxes. Okay, now those are your general funds. The other funds that the state of Kansas gets are, do any guys have, have hunting licenses? Fishing licenses? Okay, a lot of Kansans do. Okay. You ever go to a state park, we have to pay an entry fee, something like that. How much your tags, your license fees, these are the other revenues. Or, I know you've all done this, driven on the turnpike, where you have to pay to drive on the road. You know what I'm talking about? Like if you drive from here to Topeka or KU, it's like $5 or $6 one way. Okay, so that's the other funds. 28% of the money from other funds, 36% of the money from state income taxes. 34% of all the money that states use on average comes from the federal government. So how can any state survive without the federal government when more than a third of the money they use comes from the federal government? So basically what you have, guys, over the last 50 years is you have addicted the 50 states to the federal government. They're reliant on the federal government for their subsistence. Just like somebody that's on welfare is reliant on the government for their subsistence. Follow me on this? And that's not healthy. That creates a unitary system rather than a federal system. And that is the direction we are trending. And that's not healthy. You guys, and I don't know how much you really paid attention in this class, but the whole founding of this country, they were arguing about this, about a national government that would be too strong. The Federalists and the Anti-Federalists argued over this. And the states are just giving away their power to the federal government. And I don't know if you remember when I talked about the 16th and 17th Amendment, when those amendments were ratified, they changed the relationship between the states and the national government, and this is the result. Okay? Just another graphic here, guys, just to show 1960 to 2011. Okay, this is your health, this is your Medicare, Medicaid, because Medicaid was added. Okay, and Medicaid said that it's a federal and state. So Medicaid is for the poor. Okay, now mostly poor children. Okay, so the children of poor families. You follow me? They qualify for Medicaid, okay? And right now, Kansas is debating this. Now, in this last election, last week, within the state legislature, okay, and to people, this doesn't get a lot of news coverage, okay? But in the state legislature, Republicans picked up seats. The Republican Party has a super majority. Okay? Anything Governor Kelly wants to do, remember, she's a Democrat. The Republicans now have a super majority in Topeka. Okay? So if she wants to expand Medicaid, it's not going to happen. Okay? Because that's going to cost the state a lot of money. It's a federal state program. You'll get more federal dollars, but then you got to come up with your own money to pay for more people on health care. Okay. So income security is this green. This is things like welfare. Okay. This blue here is education. Okay. And then transportation, community regional development. That's like infrastructure. Okay. Okay, mandates. So now that the federal government controls so much of this money for the states, they can send mandates down. Now, some of these are good. Some of these are a pain in the neck. But you might say are needed. Okay, we can talk about it. Okay, back here. Okay, y'all heard of asbestos? You know what asbestos is? Okay, asbestos is it's used for insulation. Okay, this school was built as like most buildings and schools were built using asbestos as insulation for the building. Okay, so you remember how 2 years ago, was it last year? Yeah, last year we had that big blue thing out back. That was because our HVAC system in the school went down. They brought in that huge unit to pump air in and heat and AC. Okay, and then over the summer they shut down the school, and they redid all this HVAC. So like this thing right here is new, right? Is it warm in here? I can push this down. Is it going to make a difference? I don't know. Okay. But they put in a whole new HVAC system. You know how much this is going to cost the school? That we don't have the money for, that we didn't plan for this? Over $4.5 million. Now, about 1.2 million of it was the HVAC system itself. HVAC is heating, air conditioning. Okay. Okay. Now, the other 3 million was asbestos removal. You got to bring people in here with like suits, like hazmat suits, with, you know, covering their whole body to remove that stuff. Because if you breathe in the particles of asbestos, you can get lung cancer. Okay? And it especially affects young people's lungs. Children, school children. Okay? So in 1986, they said, you need to take that out of your schools. All right, but that's expensive. $3 million worth of asbestos removal. Now, why didn't we do that before this last 2 years? Because we hadn't changed anything. The way it works is if you're going to change the construction of your building, like this is a new wing, right? I don't know if you guys know that. This wing is, I don't know, like 15 years old over here. The hallway ended, I don't know, somewhere like over here. Okay? The school used to be much smaller. So the new stuff, this doesn't have asbestos in it. Okay? The AC doesn't have asbestos in it, but the rest of the building does. Okay? So anytime you change something or do new construction within that area, you have to get the asbestos out. It's just like the ADA. I don't know if the Americans with Disabilities Act. It was passed in 1990. Okay? Signed into law by George Herbert Walker Bush. And basically what that said is you need to make facilities handicap accessible. All right? Now, when you guys go out to the stadium, okay, do they have a ramp at the stadium for wheelchairs to get up into the stands? No. Okay? How can that be? Because we haven't changed the stands since 1990. If we expand the stands, let's say we get rid of this frickin' COVID and our school grows and gets bigger, and on Friday night there's not enough seats on an average Friday for the people, so we decide to expand the stadium. Follow me? Then you got to make it ADA compliant. Now, the press boxes out there, those are new. And I'm pretty surprised the fact that because we built new press boxes, there's not elevators that take you up there. Because I don't know how they got around that. Okay, but usually under ADA, if you do new construction, you got to be ADA compliant. That is a federal mandate. Okay, so any new construction has to be ADA. Anytime you fix or expand, you got to make it ADA compliant. Just like this with asbestos. Okay, those are federal mandates. They're expensive. Okay, so in some cases, they allow states to undertake the activity, or they can have the feds do it for them. Now, states like to do it themselves because they don't want the federal government getting involved in their stuff. Okay, so 1970 Clean Air Act. States were given money to reach certain goals. Okay, I remember this, guys. They used to take photographs of LA, Los Angeles, from a distance. okay, and you would see literally a haze. They call it smog, okay? If you go to Beijing, China today, there's a haze over the city, smog, okay? The air that people were breathing in the late 60s and early 70s in our big cities was awful, okay? Not healthy, okay? And in the summertime here in Kansas, they do alerts when they say the air outside is not healthy to breathe. I don't know if you've ever heard that. You ever heard that? Okay. A lot of that's during, when you get dry times and it's hot. There's just a lot of particles in the air. Okay. We get a lot of pollution from Colorado, from Denver. That stuff blows over to us in Kansas. Okay. And then other states get our pollution from the dust in the air. Okay. If they complied, then the federal government didn't get involved. If they didn't comply, then the feds got involved. Okay, so states try to comply with these mandates. Sometimes they give you money for it, sometimes they don't. Now this is kind of a fun one to talk about. This is where I kind of get pissed off, all right? So this is the blackmail. I like to refer to it as blackmail, okay? I don't know if I've talked about this before, but okay, so tobacco, just last year, right, they passed a national law making it 21 years old to purchase tobacco, right? Is that right? 21? Okay. Now I don't remember them debating this, talking about it, anybody arguing about it. They just did it. Okay. So what you're telling me is you could be serving in the United States Army in, say, I don't know, Afghanistan, in the Korengal Valley, fighting for your life, fighting for your country, fighting for your comrades, and be 19 years old, and you're not allowed to even get a dip or smoke a cigarette. It's illegal. Are you freaking kidding me? I just think that's stupid. Okay? Now, guys, this was phased out right before I was in high school. But when my sister was in high school, and at this school at Bishop Carroll, I don't know if you guys know this, but there was a smoking section over there. Where the library is today, used to be like an open air, what do you call it? Hey, Fox, what do you call that area where the library was? Where the library is? The courtyard? Yeah, open courtyard. Now students prior to us being here, where would they smoke?
In the courtyard.
In the courtyard. Okay. So that ended probably about what, 84?
I started here in 84 and you could not do
Okay.
it. So I went here 84, 88, it was illegal.
Okay.
So, but Mr. Nance graduated in 80 and he talks about how people were smoking out there all the time.
Yeah.
So somewhere between 80 and 84.
Okay. And you probably had some 16-year-olds out there smoking too, you know what I mean? But anyhow, we need the government to tell us how to live our lives, so we'll just accept this, okay? I don't like that. I'm sorry, I'm just not that guy. I don't like being told what to do, and I know I'm not 21 anymore, okay, or 18 anymore, but I was once, okay? And I didn't smoke in high school, and I didn't start dipping until I was 18, but now I wouldn't be able to do that. But, all right, okay. Alcohol, okay? Drinking. Used to be 18, okay? In 1986, when I was 17, the federal government said to the states, if you want money for transportation, billions of dollars in money for transportation, you will change your drinking age to 21. I was living in Florida at the time. They changed it to 21. Now, my sister was 19. I was 17. Okay? So she was grandfathered in because she had already started drinking. Okay, so anybody that was 18 or older got to be grandfathered in. They didn't do that here with tobacco. Okay, so you could be addicted to tobacco already, and then cold turkey, you're breaking the law if you're buying cigarettes now. If you were buying them at 18 and you still want to buy them, you can't. Okay, which first of all, I think is unconstitutional. It's an ex post facto law, in my opinion, but all right. So I would have to wait 4 years to be legal to drink. Now, there was one state that said, you know what? We don't want your transportation money. We're going to allow young people to come to our state, really to this city called New Orleans, to this street called Bourbon Street, and let those young people come to our city and party. And they are going to bring in a lot of dollars with them when they come. And we'll recoup what we miss in that transportation money that you're not going to give us. Okay? Now, first of all, there's something in the Constitution that says one state cannot be treated differently than another state when it comes to revenue. So this whole idea that the federal government should be able to pick and choose, if this state doesn't follow our regulations, they don't get the money back. Because the money that they're giving us originates in our states anyways, with you and I. We send it to Washington, D.C., and they're sending it back to us, telling us, if you want this money back, you got to do what we say. I don't like that. Do you like that? Let's just keep the money in the states, and then we'll decide how to live our own lives in our state. Or better yet, let us, you and I, keep the money, and we'll figure out how we want to spend our own money. Because I know how to spend my money better than the government does. I know how to balance my checking account. They don't. I'm just being facetious there. We have to pay taxes. We need government to do things. I understand. Okay. This is blackmail. So Louisiana held out for about 2 years, and then they changed their drinking age. Okay. This map, and guys, I looked for updates. This is 2004. I apologize. I mean, I scoured the internet looking for updates to this. Okay, but this basically shows the amount of money a state budget has to spend to do federal mandates. So how much it costs the states to keep up with the rules the federal government's sending. So some of these states here in orange spend over 7% of their total budgets on federal mandates. Okay. And I'm sure that has risen. There's no question that's risen. All right. That's going to be our stopping point today. Okay. What's today? Tuesday? Today, Tuesday? Okay. I gave an assignment yesterday. Did you guys see it? Okay. It's not just key terms, but there's a couple of questions too. Okay. That's due Friday night. So I can get a grade over the weekend. Okay, my grading load is starting to pile up. Now you guys notice, you guys did tests with essays on them last week, and they're already graded. I don't know about you, that's pretty impressive. That's a quick turnaround. Don't you think? I mean, when you think it would take a teacher longer than that to grade, okay? I'm busting my butts for you guys. I have so much grading to do, but I'm doing it. I'm like more responsible this year than I've ever been in grading. Okay. You guys know I'm taking a class too, right? So I'm busy. Do your homework. Get your grade up. It's like 22 points, I think, And we'll finish this, Thursday and Friday, we'll probably finish. Okay? So I'll try and do something, a little bit light. We'll probably test next Thursday and Friday. Okay? I'll try and spread it out a little bit. Okay? So I'll finish the notes Thursday and Friday. Obviously Monday, Tuesday could be review day. I'll just review live with everybody. How's that sound? And then we'll take tests Thursday and Friday. And I'll see you tomorrow at 1. Okay. Peace. Have a good day, Grant.